Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. Today is March 25th, and I can't believe it has been 25 years since this young woman's death. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background because this background is extremely important. At a National Abortion Federation risk management seminar in the 1990s, Michael Burnhill of the Alan Guttmacher Institute scolded abortionist Steve Lichtenberg for what he called playing Russian roulette with patients' lives. Lichtenberg had bragged that he loved to do risky abortions in his outpatient clinic instead of checking the woman into a hospital, and he would treat life-threatening complications in the clinic instead of sending the woman to the hospital because he enjoyed the challenge and it kind of livened up the day a little. You know, doing abortions one after the other gets kind of boring, but wow, we have a complication. This is interesting, right? Not so much if you're the patient. In this case, March 25th of 2000, it was a 22-year-old woman named Maria. She went to Albany Medical Surgical Center for a late second trimester abortion. Now, Albany Medical Surgical Center was part of the Family Planning, still is, it's got a different name now, but part of the Family Planning Associates Medical Group chain of abortion facilities. It is the largest chain of for-profit abortion facilities in the world. And again, FPA is a National Abortion Federation member. Lichtenberg oversaw all of the Chicago FPA clinics. Now, Lichtenberg estimated Maria's pregnancy at 18 weeks and plowed on ahead with what a later expert consultant called a seemingly uncomplicated, albeit short, procedure. At about 9 a.m., Maria was showing signs of shock from hemorrhage. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that he just loved to have a little bit of fun with some complications, ooh, isn't this interesting? Should have called an ambulance. Nope. He failed to notice that he had ruptured Maria's uterus, big old hole in her uterus. Didn't notice. Instead, he flushed out her uterus with a dilute solution of vasopressin, which is used sometimes to control bleeding, and he applied pressure to her uterus. But as the consultant noted, at no time were further attempts made to ascertain the cause of the bleeding or to explain the discrepancy between the marked decrease of hematocrit and the seemingly moderate blood loss. And what that meant is they were testing her red blood cell count. It was going lower and lower and lower, but we're not seeing a whole lot of blood coming out of her vagina. Well, yeah, that's because it's spilling into her abdomen, duh. Lichtenberg diagnosed DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation. That's a clotting disorder caused by triggers such as amniotic fluid in the bloodstream. So he started treating Maria with fresh frozen plasma at 9:34. But her hematocrit continued to fall, and she was showing abnormal EKG readings. Her heart was racing and she was continuing to bleed. But she wasn't given a transfusion. She wasn't transported quickly to a hospital so a transfusion could be administered there. And Lichtenberg didn't administer any additional medications to help control the bleeding. Remember, for him, this is fun. This is an adventure. This is a break from the routine. Yay! Yeah, it livens up the day. At around 10:15 a.m., Maria appeared to have been stabilized, but, again, as the expert said, no attempt was made to determine the cause of the bleeding with ultrasound evaluation or to tie off a bleeding artery. By 10:30, Maria's hematocrit had fallen to 15%, meaning she had less than half of the blood cells necessary to carry oxygen to her brain. Finally, an hour and a half after she suffered this life-threatening injury and an hour after Lichtenberg diagnosed the clotting disorder, it occurred to somebody to call 911 and have Maria taken to a hospital. By the time she arrived there, her hematocrit was 3.5%, less than 10% of what it should have been. Doctors at the hospital tried to save her, but to no avail, and she died later that evening, leaving behind a 4-year-old daughter. So it's all fun and games if you're Steve Lichtenberg. You like a little bit of a challenge. Oh, I don't want to send her to the hospital. That's boring. Well, it's a lot more boring being dead, isn't it? Some of the other women to die at FPA facilities include Denise Holmes in 1970. Then there's an unexplained gap between her and Mary Pena in 1984. Patricia Chacon in 1984, Josephine Garcina in 1985, Lenice Dorsey in 1986, Joyce Ortenzio and Tammy Sumatsu in 1988, slight gap until Susan Levy in 1992 and Deanna Bell in 1992, Christine Mora in 1994, Tatanisha Wesson in 1995, then another little bit of a gap to Nakia Jordan in 1998, Maria Lejo in 1999, Kimberly and Maria in 2000, Chanel Bryant in 2004, and then another inexplicable gap between Chanel and a woman. I have her autopsy, but her family never went public, so I'm calling her Kyla Ellis, and she died in 2014, and I'm betting that there's dead women in those gaps. But you know, this was just a fun day at work for Lichtenberg, a complication to liven up the day. And this woman ended up dead. And I consider that inexcusable. I don't think that falls under all surgery has risks. But, you know, I'm a weirdo right-to-lifer who actually thinks the women should survive their abortions.